Come on! Yeah! Here we go! Yeah! 1, 2, 3, 4! Come on! Let's go! All right.
Hi, LinkedIn. Sorry about the delay. We had some technical difficulties on the first go around, so I apologize, but I am super excited to be joined today with, what can I call her? I can call her my mentor, my coach, probably my friend at this point, Liz Heiman, who's been absolutely a huge impact, not only on me personally, but on Spark as a business. The workings that Liz and I have done together really helped change my approach in terms of how I look at attracting talent across the board. So I wanted to share some of her wisdom with you today, directed at how we're going to attract, hire, and retain sales talent. She is the CEO, co-founder, chief sales strategist, overall badass in sales. Let me introduce you to Liz Heiman. Liz, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, I'm glad to be here, Mike. And yes, I would definitely call you friend. So I'm so glad that we've had this time to work together. And I'm excited to be here and to talk about sales and sales recruiting. What an exciting topic.
Awesome. Well, I want to jump right in because I pulled some data right before we jumped on here, and we did it. We've surpassed 1.7 million active sales roles in North America right now. So to say that this is a topic for everybody across North America in terms of how they're going to attract, hire, and retain sales professionals is an understatement. I mean, everybody's looking for talent. And they're probably looking to hang on to the ones they have. So I see this conversation. I want to jump in. I want to start talking about the first piece of this in terms of attracting sales talent. And in your experience, you know, you're running a sales team or you're coaching a sales team and they say, we got to hire. We need to hire some more sales talent. What's the first thing that you would advise people to do when they're faced with this problem?
So this is a really, really good question because we tend to make the mistake of thinking sales is sales is sales. I just need to hire some good salespeople with great personality and go-getters. I need go-getters, great personality. They're going to go sell for me. No, this is not how it works. So how it works is we have a very specific job in our organization, and we need to understand what it is. We need to understand which part of the process from lead generation through closing will this person be responsible for? How much support will they get? We really need to understand what is the job they are doing. Once we are very, very clear about that, and we don't have unrealistic expectations, if you believe that every salesperson is good at everything from lead generation to closing, you're mistaken. Very few are good at everything. They all have strengths. So figure out in the role that you're hiring for, what strengths do they need? If you're a startup, you need a different kind of salesperson than if you're hiring in a very established organization with support and all kinds of other things and teamwork and all of this. So be very clear about the job you're hiring for. And what I would actually do is map out your sales process from lead generation to close. And what are the steps? What are the things that have to be done? What is the content that's available? Now, where does the salesperson I'm hiring fit into this? And what skills do they need to have? Then you can write a job description. But often we just start with, well, I need somebody tenacious. I need somebody who's a go-getter, outgoing, great personality. And then if you look at the words that are in the recruiting documents, it's impossible to be all of those things. And oh, by the way, not every sales job requires an outgoing go-getter, right? Some jobs require relationship builders. Some jobs require somebody to just dial all day long. So what is it you really need? And what are the personality traits, the skills, and the experiences for the job you're creating? For the one you're hiring for today, not last week, not last month, not 2 years ago, today. And that's really the starting place.
Yeah, I think, and you and I have had conversations before where, far too often we see, sales leaders, when they need to hire, they want somebody that can go and open accounts with little information, fill the funnel, execute on that, and then maintain the relationship with the clients afterwards. And that's not a job for one individual. You need to be clear on where the gaps are in your sales process and really kind of bringing in the right individual for that part of the process. And some bigger companies have those roles more clearly defined, but in smaller organizations, we need to be clear on it's unrealistic and we're not setting up somebody for success if we want them to come in and do all of those roles.
And it's important to understand, I can hire somebody to do all of those roles, but I'm not giving them a $5 million revenue goal of new business. And they're supposed to maintain old business, right? So what is it realistic? What is one human being capable of doing effectively and successfully to set them up for success? I'm not saying, lower their quota, but realistically, how much new business can I sell if I'm growing old business? How much new business can I sell if I have 1,000 clients I'm supposed to renew? Realistically, what we don't understand is if you have a complex business to business sale, the number of hours required to close a deal is quite large. And so how many hours can a person spend doing the job properly? And that's, and particularly, are you giving them qualified leads? Or are you giving them unqualified leads? Are you just telling them to go find their own leads? Or are they supposed to be finding leads in existing accounts? All of that matters.
I think you just might have really discouraged some people that thinks they can find those unicorns or rock star candidates that essentially can do it all, like it exists out there. So, but I agree with you. I think it's taking, before you go to the market, you got to take a second and think about actually what it is you're looking for before you start going out, posting anything or meeting with anybody, for sure.
Yeah. And sometimes people can luck out and get an amazing person who can do everything. They're 1 in a million. So if you lucked out, more power to you, but unlikely. It's very unlikely.
Fair. So now that you're clear on what it is you are looking for, you've identified your sales process, you understand where the gap is and what the skills are required to do that. How do you attract those individuals? What kind of language do you want to use, whether it's in a job description or how you're describing the role to people? How does that play into the type of role you're looking for?
So the first thing I want to say is I want to step away from what you asked me and talk about diversity for just a second. So what we know is the more diverse a sales team is, the better the results are. And we're finding that despite the fact that people have not trusted women very much with complex business sales and high dollar figures, what we're learning is they're actually very, very good at it and often outsell their male counterparts. The more diverse the team in gender, culture, whatever, the more diverse it is, the better results you will get, because then you can allocate the right kinds of leads to the right people with the right skill sets. So one of the reason I bring this up is if we look at the language of sales hires, what are the words that we hear, Mike? You tell me, what does everybody want to put in it?
They want a hunter.
A hunter, attacker. They attack it, right? How likely am I to respond positively when the language is very masculine, very aggressive, very unrealistic? Again, so we put out a job description. Here's what we know about men and women. Men will apply for a job if they have 60% of the criteria, if they can meet 60% of the criteria. Women will not until they have at least 90%. So now you've created this male messaging with all of these unrealistic expectations about the Superman seller, and you will not get the kind of traction that you want because you're not really clear about who you're selling to. And I will tell you that we see more and more that sales organizations that are old boy, old school, they are not doing as well. So that language and the belief system around the language, oh, I got to have somebody really aggressive, go get her. Well, you know what? Introverts make really great salespeople because they listen. So you've just described a super extroverted person. I'm not going to go for that job. I'm not going to do it. So what is it you really want? What is it you really need? You don't have to be aggressive and outgoing to be prospecting. In fact, some prospectors do it all through referrals, and they're really good at it and outbeat everybody else's numbers because they have the relationships. So just thinking about what do you really want and how do you make that language welcoming to everybody? It's really important. It's super important.
I'm glad you brought up the diversity angle around that, because I know you and I have talked at length about this as well in sales process, and it definitely is true as it comes to recruiting. When we start documenting in the job description and there are 15 bullet points for skills and experiences we need because we're not sure what it is we're looking for and we just want a net that we throw out to catch everybody, we're actually discouraging a large portion of the candidate pool that we would want there. So a shorter list that's less intimidating and uses language that's more welcoming and is going to yield a more diverse talent pool that's going to come in. So you're going to get more people by making that list less than by making it more exhaustive, thinking that you can catch and speak to a bunch of different talent pools.
And you may get more people that are better fit to the job. So that the actual number of people will decrease, but the number that are a good fit will increase. The other thing, and I have to say this, and don't get too upset at me, but we, a lot of companies have their own recruiting team, and they have a process of creating these job descriptions, and then it's a completely automated process. Well, what I will tell you is with many jobs, those keywords are not nearly as important as the way the person solves problems, and that doesn't come up in these words. So you have all of these words, and if you throw in this broad net, now you've got 10,000 applicants for a job, and 99% of them aren't what you're really looking for, and so the system just throws them out because they don't have all of these words, which may have nothing to do with what you really need.
Agreed. I mean, I read something the other day that job descriptions in general, they're all starting to read the same because they're a bit of an echo chamber. And the reason why is just how individuals are writing job descriptions is they read other ones that they think would make sense and they're copying it. So as we see, and I'm going to throw out SaaS-based sales individuals, if you read a SaaS company that's hiring BDRs, ISRs, or AEs, I could strip the company name and they would all read exactly the same. So to your point, you're getting all of the same candidates for all of those roles, which is not diverse. You're not tapping in. You're missing probably 90% of the talent pool that could do the job and bring in that diversity to the team that's much needed right now.
And if I'm smart, I'm looking at your job description and altering my application so that it matches yours exactly, whether or not I have those skills.
Yeah, and that's a problem too. I mean, that's a conversation for another one because I'm fighting that battle for sure. Generic together is just not the way to do it. So I'm glad we went on that tangent because I think it's super important for the first point you made about being very clear in terms of what it is you're looking for. And then in the language you're using, not only using less intimidating language, but also tighten it up, make it real short. So I want to jump into, we spent a lot of time talking about value proposition in terms of, from a sales perspective, what that is and how to be really clear on your elevator pitch. When it comes to recruiting, how do you help sales leader create an elevator pitch or a value prop for a role, for a hire?
And so it's the same things, right? So we have to start, before we know what language to use, we have to understand who our ideal candidate is, right? So when I'm writing a value proposition, typically for a sales person selling into the world, I'm writing a value proposition about my ideal customer. In this case, we're writing it about the ideal candidate. So the way that we write a job, the way we write a value proposition in general is we say, what is my customer's problem? What words do they use to describe it? Then I figure out, okay, if that's what their problem is and how they describe it, how do I solve their problem? And why am I the best solution for my ideal customer? Because you can't be the best solution for your entire target market. You're not. So who's your ideal customer? So now let's translate that to a job intro. Who is my ideal candidate? Are they forward thinking, out of the box? Are they process followers? Are they like, what do I really want? Because I now wanted my value proposition to match the kind of person I want. And if I think about the kind of person I want, they're either going to say, I want a sales job where I have the total freedom to go and do what I want and make things happen. Or I want a job where everything is defined and organized and I have all the support I need. Those are two totally different kinds of people. How can you write a job description that includes both of them, or an ideal customer or a value proposition? You can't. Understand the culture of your organization and your sales organization, and then figure out the person who's saying, I want to be in that kind of organization. I want to be in that kind of position. Now write your description for that person. Invite them in. If you really want to be in a company like this, if you want to be, and it's not just a company like this, because we have these big, broad, this is what our company's like. And our sales organization may be very different. So write one about your sales organization. This sales organization is one that is highly process oriented, very supported with tons of tools and technology. If that's the kind of organization you want to be in, we have built our organization to support people like you. Or if you want to be in an organization where you have the freedom to go out and use your skills the way you want to use them without a lot of support and rules, then we're the place that you want to be. So who are you talking to and what do they want? When they describe their perfect job, when they describe the environment, do they want a team environment, or do they want one where they get to just go off and do their thing? Salespeople are very different. And so if you don't understand what's going to appeal to them, then you're never going to get the right people to go, that's where I want to live. That's where I want to be. That's the environment I want to be in. So you have to be honest about it, first of all, because if you're not, people get then they're like, this is not what you promised me.
And you could see in the scenario that you just gave of those two different value props, those are two very different salespeople. And what I think happens is we overvalue the ones that, the rainmakers, the ones that can do it with nothing, go out and bring revenue in with no tools, no process, no playbook. And we devalue those that work well in a structured environment. That's wrong. Success is success. Right? Like there's no one salesperson that's better than another one. It's better suited for the environment that you have. And I think you just nailed it in terms of understanding that, creating a tight value prop, and then going out to that market of candidates that you think is going to bring a diverse viewpoint to your sales team.
And you could take it the other direction too. So you could say, what we call the farmer versus the hunter, which I can't stand. But anyway, but somebody who is going to grow existing accounts, to build relationships and expand relationships in existing accounts, that's a totally different person than somebody who loves to go out and get new business. They're totally different kinds of people. So I want to be in an environment where we already have a relationship, and I'm getting to build more relationships, solidify the relationships we have, and grow those accounts over a period of time with a long window for growth. Because some companies, I look at how much money they leave on the table because they don't have anybody going, this is a 5-year vision for this company. And in 5 years, we could go from $1 million to 5 million with a little bit of love and support, right? Versus I want to go out, I want to talk to new people, I want to pound on new doors, I want to have new conversations with different people every day, right? That's a totally different person. Then there's also a different kind of thing. Is this a long sales cycle with a lot of buyers? Is this a short sales cycle with 1 or 2 buyers? Totally different kind of selling process, totally different kind of person.
Agreed. I'm glad you touched on all of those things. And I know we're running tight on time. I like one more question and one more topic I want you to touch on is when you're looking at CVs of salespeople, individuals that are coming in, are there certain things or even one thing that you look for in that resume that kind of, and I know it has to match the environment we're looking at, but are there general themes you see in resumes that lead to more interest in terms of having conversations?
I think the CVs are harder to look at than to have the conversations. There's so much you can learn in a conversation, and maybe we can do this at a different time. But the CV, we do want, look, good salespeople leave jobs often for new opportunities, and they get recruited often. So we don't want to just say, oh, because they change jobs every 2 years, I don't want them. But we do want to look for things that look like discrepancies or problems. It doesn't mean we just want to be prepared to ask the question. We want to look for the ability to meet or exceed their goals, which means they're able to say, my goal was this and I hit this. Or we want to be looking for instance, if we have a complex sale, we want to look for things in there that indicate that they know what a complex sale is, that what they were selling last time was a complex sale with multiple buyers and long sales cycles. So we want to look for not those keywords, buzzwords, but the indications that they have the skill set to do what I'm doing. So if you're looking at, you can't figure out by using a computer whether the last company they worked for had a complex sale or not. You have to actually look through it and figure out which sales team they were on, how much they grew. What, if you're looking for somebody who's growing key accounts, you need that to find that in the job description, but not just with the words, but with when I say words, I mean like the buzzwords. You need to actually look at proof that they've done that they grew the key account this much, that they exceeded quota by this much. Did they do it as a team? Did they do it alone? Can you figure that out from what they've got there? Because a lot of times people will come into a company that had a whole team to support them. They really had to do very little into a company where they have to do everything, and they don't know how to do it because they've never sold by themselves before. So really, I'm looking for the stories that tell you what their selling environment was really like.
And I think, like, even though we touched on the CV, that does bleed into the questions you would ask when you actually meet with an individual to dig deeper in some of those things. And I feel like that could be a completely different session we do on the interview itself, just because that's a fully dynamic process and, requires, you to think outside the box and make sure that you're giving the runway for candidates to tell their story, to make sure that it's a fit, not necessarily for, you've done this here, you can do this again with us. It's more so what they've learned in the past and what they can do in the future, or what you think they can do in the future based on what they've done in the past. So I feel like that could be a completely other separate
we
session.
could spend a lot of time on that. But what I want to say before we wrap up is this, as I have literally been in over and over, this is not a one-time thing. I've been in meetings where someone is interviewing the salesperson and they get all excited about their energy and their excitement, and they're, telling you stories about what they did. And I'm like, there is no meat there. That is just hype. And they're like, no, this guy's great. I'm like, no, he's not. And I actually was with a company that, not with them, but consulting them, when one guy hired this person that I'm like, don't hire him. Please don't hire him. It will be a mistake. The new VP of sales came in and went, I got to get rid of this guy. I'm giving him 3 months. And I'm like, he won't make it 3 months. Get rid of him. He should have never been hired. Or at a startup where the COO, and COO should not hire salespeople. They should not hire salespeople. But, I'm asking these questions in an interview about, when you have no leads, how would you start going out and finding new leads? How do you behave how do you prepare for and behave at a trade show? What do you do? I'm asking very specific questions about their behavior and their thinking process. And the COO says, I don't care about any of that stuff. This guy's got a great personality. Just hire him. I'm like, he doesn't have a sell. I think great personality. Great personality is maybe once upon a time is how we pick salespeople, is not. And I'll tell you one more thing before we wrap up. And that is that people will tell me, my sales team doesn't get along with anybody. They're the biggest jerks. I'm like, that's because you hire jerks, because you had in your head that salespeople are jerks. And I can introduce you to tons of salespeople who are lovely, caring, wonderful people who want their customers to succeed and get along with the rest of the organization because they're not jerks. Salespeople do not have to be jerks. Sorry, one of my big pet peeves.
I think that was the best way of ending that as a soundbite is like salespeople don't have to be jerks. They can be nice people too.
They
And
should
I
be
like what you
nice
said. I like
people.
what you said about, extroverts, are not salespeople. Like they're not one and the same. And I think that there is a fine line. And I deal with this sometimes too. When clients talk to somebody and see them the first time and they are outgoing and they have a bubbly personality, they translate that to, well, they're going to be great in sales because they're good with people. It's like, well, that's not necessarily true. It's not true, but it's also not something that you should take as, that translates completely. So I'm glad you kind of shed light on that. Liz, I had a great time. I want to do this again because I have some notes
Absolutely.
here, and I think it's funny because when Liz and I jumped on before, I was like, Liz, here's all the stuff I want to get to. And she said to me, she's like, we're not going to get through half of that. And you were completely right. We did not, but I had a blast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if anything, it was just a really good opportunity for me to catch up with you. So thank you so much. And thank you, LinkedIn. We will see you again, hopefully, if Liz agrees to do this.
I will do it. And hey, if you're out there, you're watching, connect with me so you can see my content and what I'm doing and where to find me and be happy to connect with you.
Telling you right now, it will be the best decision you ever make to work with Liz because it was mine. So do that. You will not regret it.
Everybody, happy selling and have a great day.